sitting on the block or a sort of large book, make sure that your sitting bones match to the front of the block or the book, and then roll yourself forward so that half of your bum is on the block, half of it is rolling forward, okay? You need to basically feel almost as if your hips are pushing forward, and then cross your legs in front of you, place your hands wherever they're comfortable on the legs, and then start working on the core muscles, okay? You need to visualize the core muscle as something that is not just on the front, is sort of 360 degrees, okay? So we're waiting to, we're basically working on the whole area from the back all the way to the front. But the way to activate the core muscle is from the middle, okay? So try to pull the pelvic floor up by sucking, basically you're squeezing your bum hole and then sucking the belly in. So you're trying to bring the belly button towards the spine. And then open the chest and tuck the chin under. So you're feeling this upright position of the spine. There's a few people coming in, so I need to let them in manually, sorry about that. And then start working with the breath. So you're breathing through the nose only, and you're lengthening the breath, so it's the same length on the inhale as it is on the exhale. So the aim is for you to breathe nice and long breaths through the nose only, and you're aiming for 6 breaths per minute. This will activate your vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is the nerve that basically innervates all of your internal organs, and is also responsible for calming the body. So you're trying to inhale into the count of 5, exhale into the count of 5. So that's 10 seconds, and then that reaches 6 breaths per minute. Okay. So I'm just gonna give you the pace, and then see if you can maintain it for the rest of the class. Inhaling 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you're still working on the core muscle. The other way you can activate the vagus nerve is by humming. And the ujjayi breathing, which is the breathing that comes from the back of the throat, is very good for that. So if you're familiar with the ujjayi breathing, just start using it for the rest of the class. Now, interlace the fingers in front of you, stretch the arms right in front of you, and then, on the next inhale, push the palms away from you, and on the exhale, you're bringing your hands up towards the ceiling. Roll the shoulders away from you. See what happens to the belly. It tends to go forward, or it tends to puff up. So you're basically pulling the belly button towards the spine, rolling the shoulders away from you, keeping the arms as straight as you can, so you're stretching the sides of the body. Still breathe into the count of 5. On the next inhale, keep your left hand up towards the ceiling, right hand down towards the floor. Inhale, stretch the left side, and exhale, bending the right elbow. You're leaning towards your right, looking towards your left armpit. Keep your left knee down. Keep your left sitting bone down onto the block, so that basically you're stretching the left side of the body. On the next inhale, come back to the center. Exhale, left hand to the block, right hand up towards the ceiling. Inhale, lengthen the right side. Exhale, lean towards your left, looking down towards your right armpit. Stretching that right side of the body, keeping your right arm as straight as you can, so that facilitates the stretch. And then inhale, come back to the center. Exhale, right hand behind you, left hand over the right knee. Inhale, suck the belly in, lengthen the spine. Exhale, twist towards your right, chin parallel to the floor, and you're looking towards your right shoulder. You're not leaning on your arms, you're using the arms to turn towards your right. You're keeping the core muscles engaged by inhaling, lengthening the spine, exhaling, turning towards your right. And then on the next inhale, come back to the center. Left hand behind you, right hand over the left knee. Inhale, suck the belly in, lengthen the spine. Exhale, twist towards your left, chin parallel to the floor, and you're looking towards your left shoulder. Inhaling, lengthening the spine. Exhale, twisting towards your left. And come back to the center. Get rid of the block, but place it somewhere where you can use it for the rest of the class. Come on your fours. Hands directly underneath the shoulders. Shoulder width apart. Knees directly underneath the hips. Hip width apart. Top of the feet on the mat. On the next inhale, you're looking forward. Curve the back towards the floor. Push the bum out. You're relaxing the belly. Exhale, curve the back towards the ceiling. Start contracting the abdominals by pushing the bum towards your hands, looking down towards your knees. Inhale, look forward, curve the back towards the floor, push the bum out. Exhale, curve the back towards the ceiling, push the bum towards your hands, looking down towards your knees. Do it 2 more times, following your breath. And then on the next inhale, you're coming back into a neutral position. Tuck your toes under. Exhale, you're pushing your bum up towards the ceiling, looking down towards your feet. And then on the next inhale, you're bending the right leg, transferring the weight onto the left leg. Exhale, bend the left leg and transfer the weight onto the right. So you're basically following the breath, opening up the back of the legs, looking down towards your feet so your neck is nice and long. Still work on the breath. And then on the next inhale, you're looking towards your hands, bend the knees, start walking your feet towards your hands. Once you've reached the hands, keep your feet hip width apart. Grab hold of the opposite elbow. Inhale, look forward, lengthen the spine, bend the knees. Exhale, fold forward, lean the body onto the thighs, let go of the head. Nod your head a couple of times. You're trying to let go of the head, using the head as a weight to lengthen the neck. So turn your head right and left, just making sure that the neck is nice and long and the head is loose. If you want, you can now straighten the legs and start bringing the body towards your right leg and then towards the left. Feeling like your upper part of the body is starting to open up and letting go and stretching towards the floor. And then come back to the center on the inhale. Let go of the hands on the mat, and on the exhale, bend the knees, tuck the chin to the chest and come up into a standing position, head last to come up. Okay, come to the top of the mat. We're gonna do the mountain pose, and then I'm gonna read to you the disclaimer. Come with the feet touching, big toes are touching. The heels can be slightly apart, and you spread the toes as much as you can, so that you're really grounded onto the floor. And then just take a mental note of how you're standing, okay? So I tend to stand on my front and I stand on my hips, okay? So this is how I stand. So you need to basically just make a mental note of what you're doing, because that can create some imbalances in your posture and in your hips and back. And try to transfer the weight so it's right in the center of your feet. So you're not leaning too much on the toes, neither on the heels, okay? And then start pulling the kneecaps up. Tilt your pelvis under, so you want to engage the lower pelvic floor by tilting the pelvis under, sucking the belly in, opening the chest, tucking the chin under, arms by your sides. You want to activate everything, so your thighs. You're feeling the core muscles from the pelvic floor by tilting the pelvis under, sucking the belly in, opening the chest. You're looking straight ahead. Okay, so when participating in any exercise or exercise programs, there is the possibility of physical injury. If you voluntarily engage in this class, you agree to do so at your own risk and assume all risk of yourself, of your own injuries, okay? Now place your hands in front of your chest. Close your eyes for a second and set an intention for today's class. Also, what I want you to do is to really focus your mind on the breath and on the posture. So it's almost as if we're doing some meditation in movement, especially on the second part of the class that becomes a little bit slower. You really need to focus the breath on the area that we're working on so that you can allow it to open and you feel what it feels like to sort of do a myofascial release. Okay, now we're going to do 3 sun salutations. The first one we start at the basic level all together, and then you can go at your own level if you wish to. Inhale, bring your hands up towards the ceiling, look up at the hands, suck the belly in. On the exhale, you're folding forward at the hips, bringing your hands to the shin, the ankle or the mat, whatever is comfortable. On the next inhale, press to the hands, look forward, lengthen the spine. So at this position, you're re-engaging the core muscles. Exhale, you're bending the knees, hands on the mat, step the right leg out into a lunge, left leg meeting into a high plank. We're setting the plank. So we're bringing the shoulders above the wrist, we're pushing the heels away from us, squeezing the glutes, pulling the kneecaps up, squeezing the shoulder blades together, and then on the exhale, knees to the floor. Leading with the chest, you're rubbing the elbows by your rib cage, you're bringing your body down towards the floor, top of the feet on the mat, hands underneath the shoulders. On the next inhale, peel the chest off the floor, roll the shoulders away, look forward, the elbows are bent. Exhale, tuck your toes under, come into your hands and knees. Bring the seat towards your heels and you're coming up into a downward dog. Stepping your feet forward, so your feet are hip-width apart, and you're able to start bringing the heels down towards the floor. The aim is to have your legs as straight as you can with the heels coming down towards the floor. If you're finding that difficult, you can come on your tiptoes, bend the knees, push the bum up towards the ceiling, and then as you're here, you're gently starting to straighten the legs as much as you can. Inhaling to the count of 5. Exhaling to the count of 5, through the nose only. Deepening the breath, sending the breaths wherever it is that you're feeling stiffness or uncomfortable in the body. On the next inhale, you're looking towards your hands, bend the knees. You can start to walk your feet towards your hands. Once you've reached the hands, keep your feet together. Exhale, you're folding forward, letting go of the head. On the next inhale, you're coming up a little bit, engaging the core. Bring your hands up towards the ceiling and exhale, hands by your sides. Inhale, bring your hands up towards the ceiling. Exhale, you're folding forward. Inhale, press through the hands, look forward. Exhale, hands on the mat, add a step or jump into a high plank. Inhale, set the plank. Exhale, add a low plank or knees to the floor. You're coming halfway down if you're doing the low plank, but you're trying to roll the shoulders back. On the next inhale, push the body through the hands, straighten the arms, up dog, roll the shoulders away from you, look forward. Exhale, tuck your toes under, downward dog. Stepping your feet forward as you did on the first pose. Now concentrate on the upper part of the body. Hands as wide as the shoulders, wrists in line with the top of the mat. Roll the shoulders away from you, squeeze the shoulder blades together. When you're doing that, you're feeling the release on the upper part of the body. Now tilt your pelvis under, so you're tucking the pelvis under, so that you're engaging the front of your abdominals, the lower part. And then you're pointing either the head down towards the floor, the top of the head, or you're looking towards your feet. Really releasing the body. On the next inhale, look towards your hands, add a step or jump to the top of the mat. Exhale, you're folding forward. Inhale, engage the core, bring your hands up towards the ceiling, and exhale, hands by your sides. Last one. Inhale, bring your hands up towards the ceiling. Exhale, you're folding forward. Inhale, press through the hands, look forward. Exhale, hands on the mat, add a step or jump into a high plank. Inhale, set the plank. Exhale, add a low plank or knees to the floor. Inhale, up dog. Exhale, down dog. Okay, you know all the elements of the posture now, so really concentrate on the breath. If any part of the body starts trembling at this point, you can come down into a child pose that looks like this. Otherwise, just stay in the pose, breathing through any area of the body that feels tight. Inhaling to the count of 5, exhaling to the count of 5. One more breath here, inhaling to the count of 5, exhaling to the count of 5. On the next inhale, add a step or jump to the top of the mat. And exhale, you're folding forward, letting go of the head. Inhale, come up a little bit, bring your hands up towards the ceiling, and exhale, hands by your sides. Okay, so everybody should be feeling nice and warm. We start with the hands on the hips, feet together. We're stepping with the right foot halfway down the mat. Pointing the toes of the right foot towards the top right corner of the mat. And then hands on the hips, you're starting to pull the kneecaps up. Inhale, bring your hands up towards the ceiling, pull the kneecaps up so you're keeping your legs straight. Exhale, you're leaning towards the front, placing your hands on the shin or on the inside of the ankle. Right hand up towards the ceiling, palms facing away from you. Okay, so on the next inhale, pull the kneecaps up, suck the belly in, lengthen the left side of your rib cage. On the exhale, you're turning the torso towards your right. You're either looking straight ahead or you're looking towards your right hand. So you're not leaning onto your left arm. You're just using that arm to turn towards the side because you're keeping the core muscles engaged to lengthen the left side of your rib cage. So you're not collapsing down. Last breath here, inhaling to the count of 5, exhaling to the count of 5. On the next inhale, looking down towards the floor, exhale, you're bringing your hands parallel to the floor. Inhale, hands on the hips, and exhale, you're stepping to the front of the mat. We're gonna do it on the other side. Feet together, hands on the hips, you're stepping with the left foot halfway down the mat, turning the toes towards the top left corner of the mat. On the next inhale, bring your hands parallel to the floor, pull the kneecaps up so you're engaging the front of the thighs. Exhale, you're leaning towards the front leg, hand on the shin or on the inside of the ankle, left hand up towards the ceiling, palms facing away from you. On the next inhale, you need to have your torso parallel to the floor, lengthening the right side of the rib cage. On the inhale, on the exhale, you're turning the torso towards your left, looking straight ahead or towards your left hand. On the next inhale, pull the kneecaps up, protecting your lower back. And on the exhale, try to pull the left shoulder back towards the spine, making sure the hand is still pointing up towards the ceiling. So the arm is not behind you, it's pointing up. Your movement is coming from the shoulder. One long last breath here. Inhaling to the count of 5. Exhaling to the count of 5. On the next inhale, looking down towards the floor. Exhale, you're bringing your hands parallel to the floor. Inhale, hands on the hips, and exhale, you're stepping to the front of the mat. Give yourself a little bit of a shake. Okay, we're gonna do the warrior one, sorry. So we're starting with the feet hip width apart. The reason we're starting with the feet hip width apart is because when we're stepping back, we want to maintain that hip width apart sort of stance, okay? So hands on the hips, you're stepping with the right foot, quite a long stance. You want to make sure your right foot is further out than the left, okay? And now you're turning the toes towards the top right corner of the mat. So you should be able to square the hips towards the front. So the hips should be level, okay? You shouldn't be with your left hip forward. And then you're starting with the back leg. Make sure the heel is down onto the floor, the leg is straight. And now you're bending the front leg on the inhale. You still want to see the big toes. On the next step, inhale, you're bringing your hands up towards the ceiling, roll the shoulders away from you, look forward. If you want to go further on the pose, you can bend the front leg a little bit more so the thigh eventually becomes parallel to the floor with the knees never going over the toes. And also, you can start engaging the front of your abdominals, so you're sucking the belly in, and as you're doing that, because you're protecting the lower back, you can lean backward a little bit, and you can also start looking up towards the ceiling. So you should feel a deeper stretch onto your lower part of the back, especially the right side. You can also squeeze the right glute, inhale into the count of 5, exhale into the count of 5. Last breath here, inhale into the count of 5, exhale into the count of 5. On the next inhale, straighten the front leg, exhale, hands on the hips, and you'll step into the front of the mat. So you should feel a stretch, but you shouldn't feel pain on the back, okay? So adjust the pose accordingly. Start with the feet hip width apart again, hands on the hips. You're stepping with the left foot at least 2/3 of the mat, if not more, depending on your height. Make sure the left leg is further out than the right, and you're turning the toes towards the top left corner of the mat. Now the left leg is straight, the heel is on the floor. On the next inhale, bend the front leg. The more you're bending the front leg, the more you're feeling the stretch on the lower back. So you need to adjust that accordingly, okay? Now square the hips towards the front, so you're feeling also the stretch on the front of the left hip. On the next inhale, bring your hands up towards the ceiling, roll the shoulders away from you, and now this is when you start engaging the front of your body, of your abdominals, by sucking the belly in, squeezing the left glute so your lower back is protected now, and then you start looking up towards the ceiling if you want to, leaning slightly back. Inhale into the count of 5, exhale into the count of 5. And then on the next inhale, you straighten the front leg, hands on the hips, and you step into the front of the mat. Give yourself a little bit of a shake. Okay, so now we're gonna have the feet hip width apart. You can use a block in front of you if you want to. And step halfway down the mat with your right foot. And then on the next inhale, you're folding forward. So you're keeping your legs straight as much as you can, folding forward. And you can place either your hands on the mat, or you can use a block in front of you to rest on top of it, okay? So make sure that the hips are square. So you shouldn't have your left hip forward. You should pull that left hip back so that they're square with each other. And then if your hands are touching the mat, start turning the hands so that the thumbs are on the front, the fingers are on the back, and walk your hands away from you. Inhale into the count of 5, exhale into the count of 5. Tuck your chin under so your neck is nice and long. Wherever you are, you still want to have the core muscle engaged. So if by bending forward, you're curving your back, you need to come back up, and you can also place the block like this so it's got a further length. You can also use a chair, and you should really feel that the core muscle is engaged, okay? So wherever you are, try to stay true to that pose and try to make the most out of the pose by using the core muscle. On the next inhale, place your hands on the hips, and on the exhale, you're coming all the way up. So look at me before we do the other side. If, as you're folding forward, you're doing this, yeah, and you're not feeling anything on the front, there's no point on doing it, even if you're further down, okay? So you should be able to engage the core, suck the belly in, and you're feeling that core muscle engaged all the time as you're coming down. And then eventually you can come and touch the floor, but you should be coming from a position where I'm sure you can see the difference between here and sort of here, okay? So transfer the weight, the block, onto the front of the right foot or in front of you in case you need it. If it was too much of a stretch, grab a chair and make sure you're leaning onto the chair. Start with the feet hip width apart. Step with the left foot halfway down the mat. Turning the toes towards the top left corner of the mat. You should be able again to square the hips towards the front. And then on the next inhale, suck the belly in, open the chest. On the exhale, keeping the legs straight, so you're pulling the kneecaps up, you're folding forward. Now, if you can bring your hands to the floor, do so. And then you're turning the fingers so that they're pointing away from you and you're walking your hands away from you. Eventually you want to be able to also touch the nose towards the thigh, but it doesn't really matter wherever you are, as long as you're feeling the stretch on the back of the legs and you're keeping your core muscle engaged. It doesn't really matter where you are, it's just ego really, but it's cheating ego. Okay, so keep your kneecaps engaged, make sure that the legs are straight, especially the front one, because it tends to bend, okay? So wherever you are, just make sure you're still keeping the core muscle engaged, breathing nice and long breaths. Last breath here. Inhale into the count of 5, exhale into the count of 5. On the next inhale, place your hands on the hips, and on the exhale, you're coming all the way up, giving yourself a little bit of a shake. Okay, we're going to do a lunge. So this time we're not only engaging the core muscles, but we're also stretching the front of the hips, okay? And that iliopsoas. So we start with the feet hip width apart, hands on the hips. With the right foot, you're stepping out into a lunge. So you're on the tiptoes of the right foot. Now you're trying to maintain that right leg as straight as you can by pushing the heel away from you, but the heel is not touching the floor. And now you also want to maintain that distance, so the right leg is further out, that's more for balance. And now you're bending the front leg, sitting between the two legs, so you're not leaning forward. As you're leaning forward, you're getting less of a stretch on the hips. So our tendency is to go forward to avoid the hip stretch, okay? So sitting between the legs, and then on the next inhale, bring your hands up towards the ceiling. Sucking the belly in, pushing the heel away from you. Rolling the shoulders away from you. Now we're going to do a little bit more dynamics. So we're going to, on the inhale, we're straightening the front leg. And on the exhale, we're bending the front leg. You're keeping the right leg as straight as you can in all of the movements. Inhale, straighten the front leg. Exhale, bend. Last one. Inhale, straighten the front leg. Exhale, bend. On the next inhale, straighten the front leg. Hands on the hips. And you're stepping to the front of the mat. Give yourself a bit of a shake. Feet hip width apart. Step with the left foot out, maintaining that hip width stance. Tiptoes of the left foot, keeping that left leg as straight as you can by pushing the heel away from you, sitting in between the legs, bending the front leg, but you still want to see the big toes. And then on the next inhale, bring your hands up towards the ceiling, roll the shoulders away from you, looking forward, engaging the left glute, so you're really stretching that left hip. And then on the next inhale, straighten the front leg. Exhale, bend, keeping that left leg straight. Inhale, straighten, suck the belly in. Exhale, bend. Last one. Inhale, straighten. Exhale, bend. And on the next inhale, straighten the leg, hands on the hips, and you're stepping to the front of the mat. Give yourself a bit of a shake. Okay, so we're gonna start the second part of the class where we're gonna start slowing it down. We're gonna start with the pigeon pose. So the next couple of movements or the next couple of postures are for hip openers, okay? So we're gonna open the hips a lot with the next 3 or 4 poses. And we're gonna stay a little bit longer on the pose. Make sure you can grab hold of a block and you can have a couple of pillows in front with you so that you can use those to prop yourself up and make yourself comfortable. Start with the feet in front of the mat together. On the next inhale, you're bringing your hands up towards the ceiling. Exhale, you're folding forward. Inhale, press through the hands, look forward. Exhale, hands on the mat, bend the knees, add a step or jump into a plank. On the next inhale, push your hips up towards the ceiling into a downward dog and start walking your feet into the middle of the mat so that the big toes are touching. On the next inhale, lift your right leg off the floor, and on the exhale, you're starting to bring the right knee towards the chest. You're bringing the shoulders above the wrist, and you're trying to land the right knee as close as you can towards the right hand, and as close as you can to the edge of the mat. Now you're bringing that lower leg across the mat, and you're bringing the left leg down into the center of the mat, with the top of the foot on the mat, so that the left foot doesn't come inward. You're trying to keep that foot on top of the mat. Now we're gonna be in here for about 3 minutes, okay? So you want to be able to, first of all, keep your right glute off the mat. So as you're coming up into pigeon pose, you've got 3 options. Hands underneath the shoulders, chest forward, forearms onto the floor, looking down onto the mat, or the arms completely forward and forehead onto the floor, okay? You should keep your right bum cheek off the floor. So if you're struggling to do that, you can use a block underneath your bum. You're placing it underneath your bum. And then we're just gonna stay here. And we're gonna basically work on the breath. Okay, so if you're struggling to keep your right bum cheek off the floor, but you still don't want to use the block, you need to roll onto the front leg, and that helps you to keep the right bum cheek off the floor. Now, let's focus on the breath. Inhaling to the count of 5. Exhaling to the count of 5. Keeping the breath nice and long. You're now scanning the sort of right leg, right hip, the whole of your lower back. And then start tuning up with that part of the body. As we're stretching into this pose, you will feel that the sensation of tightness and stiffness is gonna change, because it's almost like with the myofascial release, you're allowing the whole fascia and the whole of the muscles to release. So as you're doing this posture for longer than the usual time, so for at least 3 minutes, you're able to affect the myofascia. And that because the fascia is basically one long sheet that is been wrapping and wrapping and wrapping at the embryonic stage, it's all interconnected. So as you're stretching here the right leg and the right hip, you're also having a lot more effects onto the rest of the body. It's almost like you're allowing the body to realign. Reconnect with the breath. Really tune in, so focus your entire mind into the sensation you're getting now on the body, but especially into that right hip and the right leg. And just sending the breath there, allowing it to open up and surrendering to the pose. So instead of resisting the stretch, you're allowing it to happen. Inhaling to the count of 5. Exhaling to the count of 5. Okay, we're almost there. We're gonna have 2 long breaths here, and then we're coming out of the pose. In and into the count of 5, send the breath wherever you're feeling the tightness. Feel it changing. Exhaling to the count of 5. And the last breath here. And then on the next inhale, bring your hands underneath the shoulders. If you have the block, just get rid of it. Place it somewhere where you can grab it. Tuck your left toes under. Lift the left leg off the floor and step back into a downward dog. Now we're going to just give a couple of breaths here where we're going to walk on the spot, allowing that right leg to just open up a little bit more and creating a bit of movement there so that we're bringing the circulation back in there a little bit faster. And then on the next inhale, start walking your feet together into the middle of the mat. And exhale here. On the next inhale, lift your left leg off the floor. Exhale, bring the knee towards the chest and bring the shoulders above the wrists. And you're landing the left knee as close as you can to the left wrist and as close as you can to the edge of the mat. So, and then you're opening up the lower leg so it comes across the mat. The left knee should be wider than your hip. Now you're resting the right leg into the middle of the mat with the top of the foot onto the floor. 3 options here. Either hands underneath the shoulders, chest forward, looking forward, or forearms down onto the floor, looking down onto the mat, or arms forward, forehead onto the floor. Now, if you're struggling to keep your left bum cheek off the floor, then use a block underneath the bum. Otherwise, you can roll onto the lower leg of the left leg, and that helps you to lift up the bum off the floor. Okay, now start working on the breath, lengthening the breath. Really connect all the elements so you're getting the best out of it. So we're gonna get the calmness of the mind by breathing nice and long breaths. And now we're also training the mind to focus on certain parts of the body so that the mind doesn't wander off. We're using that to sort of scan the body, starting from the left leg, traveling up the side of the leg where you're feeling the stretch, into the left bum cheek, the hips and the lower legs. Every time you're breathing, you're sending the breath on any part of the leg or the hip that feel tight, and you're consciously trying to surrender to the pose. So you, instead of resisting the pose, you're almost allowing it to do its job, opening up your left hip, opening up the side of the left leg. Inhaling to the count of 5, exhaling to the count of 5. So the fascia is a very interesting tissue. So it's a connective tissue, and it's that little film that you find wrapping around a chicken breast if you ever cut into one. And that little film wraps around every muscle and every organ in the body. And it is taught that at the embryological level, it is one single sheet that then starts wrapping around as the embryo starts dividing into different cells. And other extraordinary property of this connective tissue is that it conducts electricity. And that's how we believe acupuncture works. So when you're doing acupuncture, I don't know if you've ever tried it, but if you put a point in the body, sometimes you feel it traveling all the way down the leg or the other sides of the body, and they believe that that's the reason how it works. Deepen the breath, in and into the count of 5, exhale into the count of 5. Keep on scanning the left leg and the left glute so that you're basically seeing if the pain or the stiffness keeps on moving, traveling, changing. And then on the next inhale, bring your hands underneath the shoulders, tuck your right toes under, lift the right leg off the floor, step back into a downward dog. Allowing a couple of steps, walking on the spot, so that you're basically allowing the left leg to come back to life. And then on the next inhale, bring the knees down to the floor, top of the feet on the floor, coming down into a child pose, forehead onto the floor, arms forward, sitting on your heels. Nice and long breaths. And then on the next inhale, start walking your hands towards the body. As you're sitting on the heels, shift the bum either side of the feet so that you can bring your legs forward. Okay, this is where you might need a couple of pillows to help your knees. Yeah, you can also sit on the block so that you can sort of help yourself sitting upright as much as you can. So as you're sitting here with the legs forward, if you're in this position, use a block underneath your bum. Release the flesh away from your bum. And then I'm going to show you what to do with the pillow. Hug the right knee towards the chest and place the right foot, the sole of the foot, on the inside of the left leg so that you're basically bringing the right knee out. Now you can also need a pillow or two to place underneath the knee if the knee comes quite hot up, okay? Now, on the next inhale, hands either side of the left leg. Engage the left leg by pointing the toes up towards the ceiling. On the next inhale, suck the belly in, lengthen the spine, turn the torso slightly to the left, and then on the exhale, you're starting to walk your hands away from you. You need to be able to still have your core muscles engaged, so you still need to feel that you should be able to engage the front of your abdomen and pull the belly button towards the spine. Okay, so if the knee is quite up and uncomfortable, you can use a pillow underneath it. And now start really working onto that leg. So you're working on the back of the left leg, but you're also working now on trying to release that right knee down onto the floor or directly onto the mat, onto the pillows. So you're allowing that right hip to open up, and you're also feeling a stretch onto the right side of the lower back. Inhale into the count of 5. Exhale into the count of 5. You can also use a pillow underneath your belly, so you can sort of rest your body on here. But you still should be able to engage the core. So you can have pillows underneath the knees and pillows between the body and the thigh. Okay? So as you're stretching the fascia, you're having a very deep effect on the body. When there is blockage onto certain parts of the body, it has a knock-on effect on the rest of the body. So most of the time, for example, if people have got any foot pain or knee pain, first of all, it might come from the hip, but it affects the whole side of the body. So by doing this myofascial release, although we look like we're not doing much, it is a very deep release into the body that can take days to sort of settle. Nice and deep breaths.
concentrate your mind into the parts of the body that feel like they're struggling to let go and surrender. And just allow them to open up by sending the breath there. 2 more breaths here. Inhaling to the count of 5. Exhaling to the count of 5. Inhaling to the count of 5. Exhaling to the count of 5. On the next inhale, very gently you're coming out of the pose, walking the hands back to the body, hugging the right knee towards the chest and releasing the right leg down onto the floor. You can give yourself a little bit of a shake. And now make sure you've got enough pillows to adjust to the posture, judging on how it went on that side, okay? So if you think you need a pillow between the body and the leg to allow yourself to relax a little bit more into the pose, please grab whatever you can. Now hug the left knee towards the chest, place the foot on the inside of the right thigh, bringing the left knee out to the sides. The right leg is nice and long, you're pointing the toes up towards the ceiling, hands either side of the right leg, inhale, suck the belly in, lengthen the spine, turn the body towards the right slightly, and as you exhale, you're folding forward, advancing the hands as much as you can. You want to still have your core muscles engaged, and adjust yourself with pillows wherever you need them, either underneath the left knee or between the body and the thigh. Nice and long breaths, scanning the body. So you're really limiting the scanning to basically the legs, the hip and the lower back. So the reason we're starting to focus on different parts of the body, but especially the areas that are stiff, is because they are quite easy to focus your mind on. So I'm not only trying to affect your myofascia, but I'm also trying to get you more and more into a meditative state where your mind can be completely focused on one part of the body. And the easier way to do it is to go on what is called in meditation the gross areas, so the areas that are creating a lot of sensation in the body. And then as you progress more and more into this training of the mind, you can also focus the mind on really something that has got no sensation, but you still will be able to feel the sensation on that part. Inhaling to the count of 5, exhaling to the count of 5. Breathe into any area of the body that feels stiff or uncomfortable and allowing it to open it. Two more breaths here. Inhaling to the count of 5. Exhaling to the count of 5. Last breath. Inhaling to the count of 5. Exhaling to the count of 5. On the next inhale, very gently start coming out of the pose by walking the hands away from, come back into the center of the body. Hug the left knee towards the chest and release it down onto the floor. Now bend the knees, give yourself a little bit of a shake with the legs. And then bring your body into the middle of the mat, bending the knees, placing the hands in front of the knees and rolling yourself onto your back, tucking the chin towards the chest and hugging the knees onto the chest so that you're really releasing the front of the hips. You can also lift the bum off the floor for how much you're hugging the knees to the chest, and you should feel the stretch not only on the lower back as a release more than a stretch, but also on the front of your hips.
Okay, and now start bringing the knees towards the shoulders, the corresponding shoulders. So you're bringing the knees apart. You're bringing your arms inside the knees, and you're grabbing hold of the foot, so the top of the feet, and you're bringing the feet as almost as if you want to stand on the ceiling. The knees are apart. So this is the happy child pose. And you can also rock from side to side. Make sure your neck is nice and long, the head is not off the floor. If the head keeps on coming off the floor, just place a pillow underneath the head. And now start bringing the knees together and bring the right knee over the left. So you're bringing the right leg over the left leg, one knee stacked on top of the other. With your hands, you're grabbing hold of, with your right hand, you grab hold of the left foot. With your left hand, you grab hold of the right foot on the edges of the feet. And then you're pulling your feet towards the opposite bum cheek. So you're trying to bring the feet as close as you can towards your bum. Tuck the chin towards the chest. Make sure you're not overextending your neck. Breathing into the right hip and the left hip. Really starting to settle the mind. Still having nice and long breaths. So you're still engaging the vagus nerve, still relaxing the mind and the body. And then on the next inhale, release the feet and swap the legs over. So this time the left leg goes over the right, you're bending the knees. And then with your right hand, you grab hold of the left foot on the edge. And with your left hand, you're grabbing hold of the right foot on the edge of the feet. And then you're trying to bring the feet as close as you can towards your bum. Tuck the chin to the chest. Making sure the neck is nice and long. Use a pillow if the head comes off the floor. Nice and long breaths. Don't lose your concentration now. Still focus. So as you can notice, the different poses target just slight different part of the glutes and the hips. So this one has got an effect just behind the hip, okay? Whereas the other ones were more onto the side of the hip. So just breathe into the left hip. And then also a little bit on the right, but the one that you're feeling most should be the left hip, especially round that trochanter, so that the joint of the hip, round there and to the back. Inhale into the count of 5, exhale into the count of 5. And then very gently release the feet, hug the knees to the chest. Stay here for a couple of breaths and do whatever you feel like you want to do. You can bring the feet together and you can bring the knees out to the side. You can carry on just hugging the knees to the chest and rotating them. Just do that for a couple of breaths, whatever you feel like your body needs to do at the moment. And then start to prepare to go into the corpse pose or the shavasana pose. You can also use a couple of pillows underneath your back if you want to. You just putting them lengthwise, and you can rest your spine onto that part of the bent pillow so that the spine is a little bit more upright and it just opens your chest, okay? You can also use a pillow underneath for your head, or you're just coming into a classic shavasana. This is more to open the chest, okay? So have your feet as wide as the mat. Flop your feet to the sides. Tilt your pelvis under so as much as your lower back is touching the floor. Roll the shoulders away from you, opening the arms slightly to the side, palms facing up towards the ceiling. Tuck your chin under so your neck is nice and long. You can use a pillow underneath the head. You can also use pillows underneath the knees, or if your lower back is in any problem, you start bending the knees, feet on the mat, as wide as the mat, and you're supporting the knees with each other. We're gonna stay in this position for at least 6 or 7 minutes, so make sure you're comfortable, okay? Okay, so we're gonna start working throughout the body. So we're just continuing what we've just done, but this time we're gonna do a more broader scan, which is throughout the whole of the body. But we're still gonna focus onto the hips area for a couple of minutes just to release them. So start relaxing the feet, allowing them to flop to the sides, letting go of any tension you feel on the legs. Relax the ankles, allow the muscles of your calves to relax and opening up your shins. Relax your knee joints, relax the back of the thighs and relax the front of the thighs. Relax your hips, coming across the whole of the glutes, all the way into the middle of your bum cheeks, and then from there you're going under and over your reproductive organs, relaxing the pelvic area. Relax your lower abdomen, so the air between the pelvis and the belly button, and relax your upper abdomen, so the air between the belly button and the rib cage, traveling up into the rib cage, relaxing the rib cage, the chest bone, the breast, the chest and the collarbones, relaxing the top of the shoulders, coming down either side of the spines into the space in between the shoulder blades, relaxing the shoulder blades, relaxing the middle of the back, relaxing the lower back, traveling all the way down into the hip joints again and going up the sides of the body, up the waist, the sides of the rib cage into the armpits, relaxing the sides of the body. And now you're relaxing the shoulder joints, starting from the armpits, the front of the shoulder, the top of the shoulder and the back of the shoulder. Relaxing your upper arms, relaxing your elbows, relaxing your forearms, relaxing your wrists and relaxing your hands. Come back to the top of the shoulders, relax the back of the neck and relax the front of the neck. Relax your chin. Now release any tension from your lower jaw, your upper lip and your mouth. Coming across the cheeks all the way from the nose into the ears, relaxing the whole of your cheeks, your ears, relaxing your nose, relaxing your eye sockets, your temples, the forehead, the scalp and the whole of your head. Feeling as though with every breath that you take, you're starting to get more and more relaxed, deepening that relaxation. And now as you're deepening the relaxation, I want you to focus onto the area where we worked last, which is the hips and the lower back. And as you're lying down here, try not to move too much, but just scan the body. And just for the next couple of breaths, just send your breath to any part of the body that felt particularly uncomfortable or stiff as you were doing the last moves. And with every breath that you take into that area, just deepen your focus into that area, going deeper and deeper into the tissues, sending breath and warmth and healing into that part of the body and allowing it to relax. Sometimes we're holding tension in certain parts of the body because we're trying to protect it. Deepening and deepening your focus and the attention into that area. Few more breaths here. And now very gently start coming back, bringing the attention to the rest of the body. Take a deep breath in through your nose and sigh out through your mouth. Take a deep breath in through your nose, and as you sigh out through the mouth, start wiggling your fingers. Take a deep breath in through your nose, and as you sigh out through the mouth, start wiggling your toes. And if you want, you can start bringing your arms over your head, bring the feet together, tense the whole body first, and then release it. And then when you're ready, you can hug your knees to the chest and start rocking back and forward, or you can roll yourself onto the right side and then help yourself up into a cross-legged position with your left arm, coming up into a cross-legged position onto the mat. Bring your hands in front of your chest, close your eyes, remind yourself of your intention at the beginning of the class, and also make a mental note of how much you were able to just concentrate on the pose and on the breath, and how often you just wandered off with your mind. Don't judge it, but just resolve that every time you practice yoga, you also try to practice your mind. Thank you for practicing today. Namaste. And if you have any questions,